Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the alien forest, his gaze sweeping over a landscape unlike anything he had ever seen. The trees were tall, their trunks glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins, and the air shimmered with strange particles that danced lazily in the light. It was beautiful but dangerous. SciFi-9 had a reputation. Many explorers had ventured here, but few had returned. Despite the danger, Ethan felt calm. He adjusted the straps of his research pack, ensuring his scanner was secure, and took a slow step forward. The crew of the research vessel, Odyssey, had warned him about the creatures in these forests. Giant predators, toxic plants, and swarms of insect-like hunters were only some of the threats. But Ethan was not reckless. His approach was careful, deliberate, and gentle. "Ethan, be careful," called Dr. Mara Jensen from the landing platform. Her voice carried a mix of worry and impatience. "We don't want another accident like last time." Ethan gave her a small smile. "I know, Mara, just stay calm. I have it under control." He walked further into the forest, his boots pressing lightly against the soft, mossy ground. His scanner beeped quietly, detecting movement ahead. Ethan froze, his senses sharp. A small creature no bigger than a rabbit emerged from the undergrowth. Its skin shimmered with silver and blue, and its eyes were large and curious. Ethan crouched slowly, careful not to startle it. "Easy, little one," he murmured. The creature twitched its ears but did not flee. Ethan reached out gently. The creature sniffed his fingers and then nudged his hand. He smiled. This was why Ethan had been chosen for this mission. While others saw danger, he saw life. He respected it. He understood it. And more importantly, he knew how to interact with it without causing harm. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from behind him. Ethan's head turned slowly, eyes narrowing. A shadow moved between the trees, massive and fluid. The small creature squeaked and darted into the undergrowth, disappearing instantly. Ethan's heart beat faster, but he remained still. The shadow moved closer, revealing itself. An enormous predator, taller than a human, with scales that reflected the dim light of the forest. Its eyes were intelligent, calculating, and fixed on him. The crew had described creatures like this: Thryn, apex predators of SciFi-9. Most explorers considered them the ultimate threat of the planet. Few survived an encounter, but Ethan did not panic. He remained calm, breathing slowly, keeping his hands visible and relaxed. The Thryn circled him, sniffing the air, testing him. Its gaze was sharp, and every muscle in its body radiated power. Ethan whispered softly, "I don't mean to harm you. I just want to observe, to learn." For a long moment, the predator stopped moving. Then it let out a low, almost curious growl and retreated into the shadows. Ethan exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. He knew that this encounter was more than chance. The Thryn had observed him, and somehow it had not attacked. That was unusual. It sensed something different about him, something gentle yet strong. As he continued deeper into the forest, Ethan came upon a clearing. Sunlight filtered through the glowing leaves, creating a mosaic of light on the ground. In the center, a small river wound its way through the terrain. Ethan knelt beside the water and set down his pack. He pulled out a small net and began examining the water for aquatic life. Tiny creatures darted beneath the surface, their movements graceful and mesmerizing. He noted each observation carefully, jotting it down in his digital pad. Suddenly, a cry pierced the air. Ethan's head snapped up. From the far side of the riverbank, a creature had become entangled in a net, likely discarded from a previous research team. Its movements were frantic, and it was struggling to breathe. Without hesitation, Ethan sprinted forward. He untangled the net with gentle hands, calming the creature with soft murmurs. Once free, it leaped into the river and disappeared. "Good job, Ethan," he whispered to himself, feeling a rare thrill. "You saved a life today." But the forest had not finished testing him. A sudden quake shook the ground beneath his feet. Trees swayed violently, and a deafening roar echoed through the valley. Ethan dropped to the ground instinctively, shielding his head. From the shadows, the Thryn emerged again. This time it was closer, moving with deliberate steps. Ethan froze, but he did not flee. He stood slowly, showing no fear. The predator studied him, its eyes piercing. Ethan could feel its intelligence, its power. It was aware of every movement, every thought. Most humans would have panicked, would have attacked or run, but Ethan did neither. He remained calm, showing respect. The Thryn circled once and then stopped. It crouched, observing him with intense focus. For a moment it seemed as though the forest itself held its breath. Ethan reached into his pack and pulled out a small piece of dried meat he had saved from rations. He held it out cautiously. The Thrin's gaze flickered to the offering. Slowly it approached and took the meat without a sound. Ethan smiled. We can understand each other. In some way. From the trees, another sound made him pause, a group of his crew shouting and waving. They had been searching for him, worried about the predator. Ethan waved them off. This was his moment. He had to show that humans could act with courage and empathy, even in the face of danger. The Thrin stayed with him longer than expected, watching his every move. It seemed intrigued by his gentleness, his patience, his respect for life. It was unusual for this predator to linger near humans. Most would have attacked on sight. As the sun began to set, Ethan made his way back to the camp. The forest seemed alive, yet he walked with a confidence that came from understanding rather than domination. When he reached the clearing where the crew had set up camp, he found them waiting, anxious and wide-eyed. "Ethan, are you okay? What happened?" Mara called, running to him. Ethan smiled, brushing dirt from his sleeves. "I'm fine. The forest. It's teaching us. There's more intelligence here than we realized." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Some were skeptical, others afraid, but Ethan knew the truth. There was a bond forming between him and the forest, a connection that transcended fear. That night, as the crew gathered around the fire, Ethan sat quietly, his mind replaying the day's events. Somewhere in the shadows, he sensed the Thrin watching. He did not know what it would do next, but he felt no fear. Instead, there was a sense of understanding, an unspoken respect forming between human and predator. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. Psi-49 would test them all. Its dangers were real, its predators merciless. But he also knew that courage, patience, and empathy could bridge even the widest gaps between species. Somewhere deep in the forest, the Thrin tilted its massive head, as if acknowledging him. Ethan smiled faintly, feeling a quiet thrill. Humanity had a chance here, not just to survive, but to shine, and somehow he felt the forest already knew it. The sun rose slowly over the alien forest, casting long shadows between the glowing trees. Mist clung to the mossy ground, curling around Ethan Cole's boots as he stepped out of the small research shelter. The crew of the Odyssey were already busy unpacking equipment, but Ethan paused for a moment, listening. He felt it before he saw it. A shift in the air, subtle and quiet, a presence watching him. His pulse did not quicken. Instead, his senses sharpened. Somewhere nearby, the apex predator, the Thrin, was moving through the undergrowth, unseen but aware of him. Ethan crouched slightly, scanning the forest floor. Tiny footprints in the soft soil indicated the predator's path. He followed them quietly, careful not to make any sudden movements. His curiosity outweighed his caution. He wanted to understand this creature. "Ethan, you're not seriously going after it again, are you?" Mara's voice broke the silence. She had been following him, concern written across her face. "I'm not hunting it," Ethan replied calmly. "I want to observe, learn. The Thrin, it's different. I can feel it." Mara shook her head but did not argue. She had seen his calm in the face of danger before. Whatever drew him to the forest, she knew he could handle himself. As they moved deeper into the forest, Ethan noticed signs of the Thrin's presence everywhere. Broken branches, faint claw marks on tree trunks, and the occasional deep, low growl echoing through the trees. But the predator did not attack. It watched, waited, testing him silently. Suddenly, a loud screech pierced the air. Ethan froze. A pack of smaller carnivorous creatures surged from the shadows, their eyes glowing red. They were fast, and their teeth looked sharp enough to tear through armor. The crew panicked, shouting orders and trying to fend off the attack with energy rifles. Ethan, however, moved differently. He didn't shoot immediately. He studied their movement, predicted their direction, and acted with precise timing. He grabbed a branch, swung it to block a creature lunging at Mara, then kicked another off balance, giving the team a chance to escape. His movements were calm and confident, but there was no unnecessary force. He used skill, not aggression. From the trees, the Thrin watched silently. It had not interfered, but its eyes followed every step, analyzing Ethan's actions. The predator's intelligence was immense, and it seemed fascinated. Most humans would have panicked or fought recklessly. Ethan's gentleness, his care for both his crew and the attacking creatures, intrigued it. Once the smaller predators were driven off, Ethan knelt beside one that had been injured. Despite the creature's fangs and aggression, he gently examined its wounds. Using a small medkit, he applied a healing gel, whispering softly as he worked. "See?" he said to Mara, who had been watching. "Even dangerous creatures deserve respect. Fear doesn't solve anything." Mara stared, still uneasy, but she could not deny the truth. Ethan's bravery was not loud or aggressive. It was quiet, thoughtful, and firm. As the day wore on, Ethan continued to explore. He cataloged plants, observed alien wildlife, and even noticed subtle changes in the forest. Something had shifted since his first encounter with the Thryn. The predator seemed to be following him more closely, sometimes leaving signs of its presence. A snapped branch near his path, a set of paw prints circling the area, or the occasional low growl echoing just out of sight. The crew whispered among themselves. "Why doesn't it attack?" one said. "It should be deadly." "It's an apex predator," Ethan smiled faintly. "Because it senses something in me. Something different. Calmness, respect, courage without recklessness." Late in the afternoon, the crew reached a deep ravine. The path across was narrow, suspended over a rushing river of green water. Ethan's scanner beeped, warning of unstable terrain. "Ethan, this is dangerous." "We should turn back," Mara said, gripping the edge nervously. Ethan shook his head. "We can do this carefully." He tested the first plank, then the second, his balance steady. One by one, he led the crew across. His hands guided them gently but firmly, ensuring they did not stumble. Halfway across, the ground trembled. A low roar erupted from the forest. From the shadows, the Thryn emerged, massive and imposing. It did not attack, but its presence was enough to make even the bravest crew members freeze. Ethan stepped forward slightly, raising a hand in a calm gesture. "I don't want to fight you," he said softly. "I respect you. We only mean to survive, not to harm." The Thryn's eyes studied him, glowing faintly in the dim light. It circled slowly, sniffing the air, measuring Ethan's intention. Then it tilted its massive head and, almost imperceptibly, stepped aside, allowing the crew to pass safely. The crew exhaled collectively, some in relief, some in awe. Ethan met Mara's eyes and gave a small nod. "It's testing me," he said, "trying to understand who I am." Night fell, and the crew set up camp near the riverbank. Fires burned, and the soft hum of alien insects filled the air. Ethan sat apart for a while, his eyes scanning the forest edge. He felt the Thryn's gaze even before he saw it. The predator lingered in the shadows, observing silently. Ethan did not fear it. Instead, he felt a strange sense of connection, as though they were two beings studying each other. The Thryn was learning about him, and perhaps in some small way he was learning about it. Suddenly, a soft sound reached his ears. A small injured creature crawled toward the camp, bleeding from a leg wound. Without hesitation, Ethan went to help it. He carefully lifted it, cleaned its wound, and wrapped it in a small cloth. The Thryn watched from the shadows, its posture relaxed but alert. Ethan noticed it. "You see?" he whispered to the predator. "Compassion isn't weakness, it's strength." For the rest of the night, the Thryn did not move from the tree line, but Ethan felt its presence constantly, a silent guardian observing his actions. He knew the predator was testing him, evaluating his courage, patience, and morality. The next morning, the crew awoke to the sound of a distant roar. Some of the smaller creatures had returned, more numerous and aggressive. Panic threatened to take over the camp, but Ethan remained calm. He directed the crew to defensive positions using clever tactics rather than brute force. From the forest edge, the Thryn emerged again, massive and powerful, yet it did not attack. Instead, it seemed to be studying Ethan's every move. Ethan noticed its curiosity. "You're learning," he murmured. "You see that humans aren't just fighters. We can think, we can care, we can act with purpose." The creatures charged. But Ethan, with guidance from the Thryn's movements, led the crew in a series of maneuvers that kept everyone safe. He combined strategy, quick thinking, and calm leadership to navigate the attack. By the end of the day, the camp was unharmed, and the smaller predators had retreated. Ethan knelt by the river, exhausted but satisfied. The Thryn stepped forward briefly, sniffed the air near him, and then disappeared back into the forest. Mara approached him, her expression a mix of amazement and disbelief. "I've never seen anything like this. You handled them all without harming them unnecessarily." Ethan smiled faintly. "Strength isn't always about fighting. Sometimes it's about understanding. Courage isn't just facing danger, It's facing it with respect and wisdom. That night, Ethan lay in his sleeping pod thinking about the Thryn. The predator was unlike any creature he had ever encountered. It was intelligent, powerful, and cautious, yet it had chosen to observe rather than attack. He knew one thing for certain: the bond was beginning, subtle but unmistakable. The Thryn had recognized something in him, something rare among humans. It was not physical strength alone, but the combination of empathy, intelligence, and courage. Somewhere deep in the forest, the Thryn's eyes glowed faintly as it watched Ethan sleep. The apex predator, feared by many, had found a human worth observing, worth testing, worth respecting, and Ethan, gentle and brave, had no idea that this silent observation was only the first step toward a bond that would change the course of both their lives, and prove that humanity's true strength lay in its heart, as much as in its mind. The morning sun barely penetrated the dense canopy of Zephora 9 as Ethan Cole tightened the straps on his pack. The forest was alive with movement, shimmering leaves, darting creatures, and the low hum of alien insects. But Ethan's attention was elsewhere. For days he had felt the presence of the Thryn, the apex predator of this planet. Now he knew the moment of true confrontation had arrived. The crew of the Odyssey moved cautiously, following Ethan through a narrow canyon where sunlight barely reached the mossy floor. Rumors of previous expeditions lost to the dangers of this region weighed heavily on their minds. Ethan, however, remained calm. His focus was not on fear. It was on understanding, anticipating, and respecting the creatures around them. "Ethan, are you sure we should continue?" Mara asked, her voice tight with worry. "This canyon is dangerous. The last team never made it through." Ethan smiled faintly. "We'll be fine. Just stay alert and follow my lead. Watch the patterns of the smaller creatures. The Thryn is observing, but it won't attack without reason." The first signs came quickly. Broken trees and deep claw marks marred the canyon walls. The earth trembled slightly, warning of something immense moving nearby. The crew froze as a low, rumbling growl echoed through the canyon, bouncing off the stone walls. From the shadows, the Thryn emerged. Its massive form towered over the crew, scales glinting in the dim light. Its eyes, intelligent and unyielding, fixed on Ethan. Unlike previous sightings, this time the predator did not hide. It stepped forward, deliberately testing the humans. Ethan remained still. He did not raise a weapon. He did not back away. He met the predator's gaze steadily, showing respect rather than fear. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He understood that the Thryn was assessing him, looking for weakness or courage. Without warning, the ground beneath them trembled violently. A section of the canyon wall collapsed, sending rocks tumbling toward the crew. Screams erupted as the team scrambled to safety. Ethan reacted instantly. He grabbed a fallen branch and wedged it against a rock to block its path, guiding Mara and the others to a safer spot. Through the chaos, the Thryn moved as well. It leapt with precise timing, intercepting falling debris and preventing the team from being crushed. It did not attack. It acted with purpose, as if evaluating Ethan's responses under extreme stress. Once the dust settled, Ethan knelt and checked each crew member. "Everyone okay?" he asked, his voice calm despite the adrenaline. Mara nodded, though her face was pale. "Thanks to you, and whatever that was." She gestured toward the shadow where the Thryn had disappeared temporarily. Ethan glanced at the darkness. "It's not just a predator. It's intelligent. It's learning. And it's testing me." The Thryn reappeared closer this time, stepping into the clearing. Its massive claws dug into the soft earth, and its tail swept behind it with controlled power. Ethan could feel the weight of its attention, almost like a physical pressure. The predator circled slowly, studying him. Ethan's body was tense, but his expression remained gentle. He understood that this confrontation was not about violence. It was a test of character, courage, and respect. Suddenly, from the canyon shadows, smaller predators surged forward, drawn by the commotion. The crew panicked, firing weapons indiscriminately. Ethan held up a hand, signaling them to stop. He had a plan. Using quick thinking, Ethan created a diversion. He pulled a reflective panel from his pack and angled it toward the sun, casting bright flashes across the canyon walls. The smaller predators hesitated, distracted by the sudden light. Ethan took advantage of the moment. guiding the crew past them with precise, calm movements. The Thryn watched everything. It observed Ethan's strategic thinking, his ability to protect others without unnecessary aggression, and his unshakable calm. Most humans would have panicked or tried to fight blindly. Ethan did neither. Finally, the Thryn stopped circling. It crouched slightly, bringing its massive head closer to Ethan's level. Its eyes, intelligent and sharp, studied him as if peering into his very soul. Ethan met its gaze without flinching. "You're testing me," he said softly. "I won't fight unless I have to. I respect you. I respect this forest. I respect life." For a moment, the canyon was silent except for the rushing water far below. Then the Thryn made a low rumbling sound, not a growl but almost a purr. Ethan felt a strange warmth pass through him. The predator's actions were deliberate, almost ceremonial. Suddenly, another threat appeared. The ground shook as a massive creature, even larger than the Thryn, emerged from a hidden ravine. It was aggressive, roaring and stomping toward the crew. Panic threatened to erupt, but Ethan's mind raced. He had to act fast. Ethan scanned the terrain, the smaller predators, and the path of the approaching beast. He made quick calculations, then gestured for the crew to move behind large boulders. Using ropes and branches, he set up traps to slow the advancing creature. The Thryn moved alongside him, almost as if following Ethan's lead. It blocked the massive creature's path, using its size and power to shield the humans without harming the aggressor unnecessarily. The predator worked with Ethan in seamless coordination, unspoken, instinctive, and astonishing. By the time the beast retreated into the shadows, the crew had reached safety. They were exhausted, panting, and in awe. Ethan too was tired, but he felt exhilaration. The Thryn approached him slowly, eyes focused and calculating. Ethan stepped forward, showing no fear. "I don't want to fight you," he said quietly. "I want to understand you. We can coexist. We can respect each other." The Thryn lowered its massive head, brushing it lightly against Ethan's shoulder, a gesture that seemed symbolic, almost ceremonial. Ethan froze, then placed a hand gently on the creature's head. It was warm, alive, and intelligent. For the first time, Ethan realized the bond forming between them. It was not based on fear, not on domination. It was mutual respect. The Thryn recognized courage, empathy, and intelligence, qualities it rarely saw in humans. The crew watched in astonishment. Some were still wary, but most understood that something remarkable was happening. A predator, feared by all who knew the planet, had acknowledged a human not as prey, but as an equal of sorts. Ethan withdrew his hand slowly, careful not to startle the predator. "Thank you," he whispered. "I promise to respect this forest. And you." The Thryn let out a low, approving rumble and retreated into the shadows, disappearing into the canyon depths. Ethan knew this was temporary. The predator would return, testing him further, observing him more closely. That night, Ethan sat by the campfire, thinking about the day's events. The Thryn's actions were not random. They were deliberate, intelligent, and meaningful. It had tested him under extreme danger, and he had passed. Mara joined him quietly, sitting beside him. "I don't think I've ever seen anyone handle a situation like that," she said softly. "You didn't fight, you didn't panic. You just led." Ethan smiled faintly. "Strength isn't always about power. Sometimes it's about patience, understanding, and respect." The Thryn saw that today. As the camp settled for the night, Ethan sensed the predator's presence once more. From the darkness, its glowing eyes watched him, intelligent and aware. The bond was forming, subtle but undeniable. Ethan lay in his sleeping pod, exhausted but alert. He thought about what tomorrow might bring. The forest would continue to test them, but he was ready. He had faced danger without fear, guided others with calm and intelligence, and earned the respect of a creature that most humans would have called a nightmare. Somewhere deep in the canyon, the Thryn rested, its mind still focused on Ethan. The apex predator had recognized something rare in him, a combination of courage, empathy, and intelligence that few humans possessed. And in that moment, Ethan realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons, nor its technology, nor even its survival instinct. It was the heart, the ability to face danger with respect, to act with courage, and to understand life in all its forms. The forest was alive with whispers and distant sounds, but Ethan felt calm. He knew the Thryn would return. and when it did, their bond would grow stronger, proving that even the most feared creatures could respect humanity's true nature. Tonight, under the alien stars, humanity's quiet strength had shone through, gentle, brave, and unyielding. The morning mist clung to the forest floor, weaving around the trunks of HFY-9's glowing trees like restless spirits. Ethan Cole rose from his sleeping pod, rubbing the stiffness from his shoulders. The events of the past days replayed in his mind: the quake, the attack of the smaller predators, and the moment when the Thryn had silently acknowledged him. He felt a quiet anticipation. Today would be different. He had sensed it overnight. The Thryn, intelligent and powerful, was not merely watching anymore. It had begun to recognize him as someone unique. A bond was forming, subtle yet undeniable. Ethan knew the predator would return in a way that could not be ignored. As the crew prepared for another day of data collection, Ethan stepped toward the forest edge, following a path only he seemed to sense. Mara noticed him leaving. "Ethan, wait. Where are you going?" She called. "I have to go," Ethan said softly. "It's time to face it, to understand it fully." The forest seemed to respond, the glow of the leaves brighter, the air charged. Ethan moved carefully, alert to every sound. The Thryn's presence was close. He could feel it. His heart did not race with fear. Instead, it beat steadily with purpose. The clearing appeared suddenly, bathed in golden light as the sun broke through the canopy. And there it was, the Thryn, larger and more imposing than ever. Its eyes gleamed with intelligence, curiosity, and something Ethan could not quite name. The predator stood still, waiting, as if inviting him to step forward. Ethan approached slowly, hands visible and open. The Thryn's gaze followed every motion. There was no aggression, only assessment. He could feel the weight of the predator's presence, powerful yet measured. "Hello," Ethan said softly. "I've come to understand you, not as an enemy, but as a being worthy of respect." The Thryn's massive head tilted slightly, a sound vibrating from its throat, low and resonant. Ethan understood it as acknowledgement. Then, without warning, the Thryn lowered itself slightly, moving closer to him. Its enormous claws touched the soft moss carefully, like a dance of respect. Ethan knelt slowly, meeting the predator's eyes. The moment was surreal. Here was a creature that could have destroyed him in seconds, yet it had chosen to engage, to communicate without violence. From the shadows, Ethan noticed subtle markings on the Thryn's scales, scars from battles past. Its survival and intelligence were evident, and yet here it was, offering a gesture of trust. Ethan reached out slowly, hand trembling just slightly. The Thryn leaned its massive head forward. Its eyes softened, and for the first time a silent connection passed between them. Ethan touched the creature's scales gently, feeling warmth and life beneath the tough exterior. "Do you trust me?" Ethan whispered. He knew the answer would not come in words, but in action. The Thryn lowered its head further, pressing lightly against Ethan's hand. It let out a low, approving rumble. Then, in a movement that shocked even Ethan, the predator made a symbolic gesture, touching its claw lightly to Ethan's forearm. In HFY-9's ancient culture, this was a ritual of blood brotherhood, a bond of loyalty, respect, and protection. Ethan froze for a heartbeat, then smiled. "I accept," he whispered, feeling a surge of connection unlike anything he had experienced. Their bond was not merely symbolic, it was a promise, unspoken but understood by both. From that moment, the forest seemed to shift. The Thryn moved alongside Ethan as he led the crew through more dangerous sections of HFY-9. Its presence was protective but unobtrusive. It guided them past ambushes of smaller predators, blocked deadly traps, and subtly redirected the team away from unstable terrain. Ethan's crew was amazed. They had seen him handle danger with intelligence before, but now the Thryn acted as both guardian and partner. The bond between human and predator was evident in every coordinated move. "Ethan, I don't even know what to say," Mara admitted as they crossed a ravine. "It's incredible. It's protecting us and it's listening to you." Ethan smiled. "It respects us because we respect it. It's not about dominance. It's about understanding, cooperation, and courage." The day continued with careful exploration. Ethan and the Thryn worked in silent synchronization. They encountered a pack of aggressive predators in a narrow canyon. Normally, the crew would have panicked. But with Ethan's leadership and the Thrin's presence, they were able to divert the attackers safely. Ethan guided them strategically, while the Thryn used its massive size to block paths without harming the smaller predators unnecessarily. By nightfall, the camp was safe and intact. Ethan knelt near the river, observing the Thryn resting nearby. There was a subtle understanding between them now. Each recognized the other's strength, not merely in physical power, but in intelligence, courage, and moral choice. Mara approached him quietly. "I don't know if I've ever seen anyone form a bond like this. Not with an animal, not even with humans." Ethan nodded. "It's not just a bond. It's mutual respect. It's recognition. The Thryn knows we're not here to dominate or destroy, and I know it can protect us and guide us because it understands courage and empathy." Night fell fully, and the forest around them seemed alive with whispers. The Thryn remained at a distance, yet close enough to be a reassuring presence. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, not as a leader commanding with fear, but as a protector earning trust through calmness and understanding. In the quiet hours, Ethan reflected on the journey so far. SciFi-9 had tested them repeatedly: predators, earthquakes, unstable terrain. Yet every challenge had been met with intelligence, courage, and respect for life. And the Thryn had witnessed it all. The predator's approval was no longer tentative. It was deliberate, a silent acknowledgement of Ethan's qualities as a human, gentle, brave, and morally aware. Humanity's strength, he realized, was not in weapons or technology alone. It was in the ability to act with wisdom, to protect without unnecessary force, and to form bonds even with beings that seemed impossible to understand. The next morning, the forest greeted them with an eerie calm. Ethan led the crew deeper into SciFi-9, the Thryn moving in step beside him. The predator's massive presence was comforting rather than threatening, a living testament to the bond they had forged. A sudden roar echoed from the forest ahead. This time Ethan did not flinch. He signaled the crew to hold position and observed the movement through the trees. A group of smaller predators advanced, drawn by the disturbance. Ethan acted quickly, creating barriers with fallen branches and rocks. The Thryn positioned itself strategically, blocking potential attacks and guiding the group safely through. The coordination between human and predator was flawless. The crew watched in awe, some whispering in disbelief. This was not mere survival. It was a demonstration of trust, intelligence, and partnership across species. By mid-afternoon, they reached a high plateau overlooking the forest canopy. Ethan knelt, observing the Thryn resting nearby. He reached out and touched its massive claw gently. The gesture was silent but meaningful, a reaffirmation of their bond. "Together," Ethan whispered, "we can face anything, and we'll protect each other." The Thryn responded with a soft, resonant rumble, its way of acknowledging the promise. In that moment, Ethan understood the depth of what had been forged, a bond of blood, loyalty, and mutual respect that transcended fear or instinct. The crew gathered around, observing the profound connection. Ethan turned to them, smiling. "This is what makes humans strong, not brute force, not weapons. Understanding, courage, and empathy. Even the most feared predators can see it." That night, under the alien stars, the forest was silent except for distant calls of unseen creatures. Ethan lay in his sleeping pod, the Thryn resting nearby, the bond between them solid and unspoken. Humanity's unique qualities had earned respect in the most dangerous of environments, proving once again that strength was measured not only in survival, but in heart, courage, and wisdom. And deep within the forest, the Thryn watched over them, guardian and companion, waiting for the challenges yet to come, but ready as Ethan was to face them together. The forest of SciFi-9 stretched endlessly before Ethan Cole and his crew. After days of navigating dangerous terrain, surviving attacks, and forging a bond with the Thryn, they had grown stronger, both individually and as a team. The sun filtered through the glowing canopy, casting dancing patterns on the mossy ground. Despite the beauty, danger remained at every turn. Yet, with the Thryn moving beside them, a sense of confidence replaced fear. Ethan led the crew toward the final survey site, a plateau that overlooked a vast expanse of the forest. Here, the Yao, rarest flora and fauna, were rumored to exist, creatures that could provide valuable insights into interstellar biology. The mission was critical, and the team's success depended on careful navigation and observation. "Are you sure we're ready for this?" Mara asked, adjusting her gear. Her eyes darted nervously toward the shadows where unseen creatures moved. Ethan smiled reassuringly. "We've made it this far. We've faced more than anyone thought possible. Trust in yourselves, and trust in our friend here." He nodded toward the Thryn, whose massive form blended with the forest's shadows, yet its eyes gleamed with watchful intelligence. The journey began smoothly, but the forest had one final test in store. A violent tremor shook the ground, and a pack of smaller predators emerged from the undergrowth. Their eyes glowed red, and their movements were swift and coordinated. Panic threatened to overtake the crew, but Ethan remained calm. "Stay close," he instructed, positioning himself between the creatures and his team. "Follow my lead." The Thryn stepped forward, its massive presence intimidating the smaller predators. It roared, a deep sound that echoed through the canyon walls, sending the attackers into momentary hesitation. Ethan seized the opportunity to guide the crew using strategic movements and makeshift barriers. Branch by branch, rock by rock, he directed the smaller predators' path, leading them safely away from the team. The Thryn mirrored his movements, its enormous claws creating barriers, nudging the creatures without harming them. Together, human and predator acted in perfect harmony. Intelligence and instinct combined to achieve a shared goal. By the time the smaller predators retreated into the shadows, the crew was safe and exhilarated. They gathered around Ethan, breathless but smiling. "I can't believe what I just saw," Mara admitted. "You didn't just survive, you led, you protected, and somehow you communicated with it." Ethan nodded. "It's about understanding. Courage without wisdom is reckless. Strength without empathy is dangerous. The Thryn and we respect each other, and that makes all the difference." As they continued toward the plateau, the Thryn remained close, occasionally moving ahead to scout or gently guiding them around unseen hazards. Ethan marveled at the predator's intelligence. This was no mindless beast. It was a partner, a guardian, and a teacher in its own right. The plateau rose above the forest like a natural tower. From its edge, Ethan and the crew could see the vast expanse of alien flora stretching to the horizon. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly in hidden valleys, and massive flying creatures traced graceful arcs through the sky. It was breathtaking, but Ethan remained focused. "Let's set up camp here," he instructed. "We need to record our observations and collect samples safely." The crew worked together efficiently. Mara and her team carefully cataloged plants while Ethan and the Thryn explored nearby areas. In one grove, they discovered a small cluster of rare flowers that glowed in response to movement. Ethan approached cautiously, mindful of both the plants and the creatures that might inhabit the area. The Thryn observed silently, stepping aside when necessary and allowing Ethan to examine the flora. Its presence was reassuring, yet unobtrusive. Ethan knew that the predator could handle any threat, but it respected his lead. This mutual trust had become the foundation of their partnership. As the day progressed, Ethan noticed a series of claw marks and unusual disturbances near the edge of the plateau. He signaled the crew to stay alert. From the shadows, a massive predator, larger than any they had encountered, emerged, moving with deliberate intent. The crew froze in fear, but Ethan remained calm. He stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and his team. "Wait," he whispered. "We don't need to fight." The Thryn stepped beside him, towering and powerful. The two apex predators faced each other, and for a tense moment the forest held its breath. Then, in a display of intelligence and strategy, the Thryn communicated with the intruder through postures, growls, and subtle movements. Ethan watched closely, understanding the predator's signals and even mimicking some gestures to reinforce peace. The larger predator hesitated, then slowly retreated into the forest. The team exhaled collectively. Ethan knelt, placing a hand gently on the Thryn's massive paw. "You did it," he whispered. "Together we protected everyone. Together we survived." That evening the crew gathered by the campfire, exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced countless challenges, survived deadly predators, and witnessed something remarkable: an apex predator recognizing and cooperating with a human. Ethan spoke quietly, but his words carried weight. "Humans aren't just survivors," he said. "We're thinkers, problem solvers, and most importantly, we care. We care about life, about each other, and about the world we inhabit. That is our greatest strength." Mara nodded, her eyes wide with admiration. "You've shown us that courage isn't just fighting. It's understanding, protecting, and leading with your heart." Ethan smiled. "Exactly. And sometimes, that strength earns respect from even the most feared creatures." The Thryn rested nearby, its massive head lowered but alert. Ethan glanced at it, feeling the silent bond between them. This predator, feared by all, had recognized humanity's unique qualities, and through empathy, intelligence, and courage, they had forged a partnership that transcended species. As night fell, the stars of Zyphera-9 glittered above, alien yet familiar. Ethan stood at the edge of the plateau, looking over the vast forest. The Thryn stepped beside him, massive and silent, yet fully present. For a moment, human and predator simply watched the horizon, united in their shared experiences. Ethan felt a surge of hope. Humanity's qualities, courage, empathy, intelligence, and respect for life, had shone brightly in the most dangerous environment imaginable. They had proven that humans could earn respect not through domination, but through understanding and action. In the days that followed, the team completed their research mission. They documented flora and fauna, mapped the terrain, and gathered invaluable data for the interstellar scientific community. And always, the Thryn remained near, observing, protecting, and occasionally guiding them. When the mission concluded, and the Odyssey prepared to depart Zyphera-9, Ethan stood at the forest edge, looking back at the land that had tested them so severely. The Thryn stepped forward, brushing its massive head lightly against Ethan's shoulder. An acknowledgement, a farewell, and a promise all at once. Ethan placed his hand gently on the predator's scales. "Thank you," he whispered, "for your trust, your guidance, and your respect. Humanity will not forget this bond." The Thryn rumbled softly and disappeared into the forest shadows, leaving Ethan with a sense of awe and accomplishment. The crew gathered around him, their faces glowing with pride and relief. "Ethan," Mara said softly, "you've shown us the best of humanity. Courage, empathy, intelligence, all shining through even in the most dangerous places." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight and the pride of the journey. "We've all shown it. Not just me. Every choice we made, every life we protected, every risk we faced, those moments define us." The shuttle's engines roared to life, and the Odyssey lifted off, carrying the team and their discoveries away from the alien forest. Ethan looked down one last time. The Thryn's silhouette was barely visible among the glowing trees, yet its presence was unmistakable. In that moment, Ethan realized something profound. Humanity's true power was not in weapons, nor in technology, nor in sheer numbers. It was in the ability to act with wisdom, courage, and heart. It was in the ability to forge bonds, to respect life, and to rise to challenges with intelligence and empathy. And on Zyphera-9, in a forest filled with danger and wonder, humanity had shone, brilliant, gentle, and unyielding. Ethan smiled faintly as the stars of space stretched before him. They had faced the apex of danger and earned respect where few could imagine it possible. Humanity, he realized, had not only survived, it had inspired, it had led, and it had proved that courage combined with compassion could conquer even the most formidable challenges. And somewhere deep in the glowing forest, the Thryn watched and remembered, a silent guardian of a bond that would never be forgotten.